Top 5 budget decks for the KC Cup. Starting off with number 5, we have Lunalight at 15,000 gems. This is actually the second most affordable deck on Duel Links meta over the last month or so out of all the King of Games and tournament decks that have been posted. Lunalights have gotten a lot of support this past year. Well, not a lot, but they've gotten a decent amount, right? They got a new skill, they got some new cards with their most recent character came out, their big new boss monster, Leo Dancer, is finally available to play with, but they also got some help in the most recent ban list that came out, with Yellow Martin coming off the list, meaning you can finally run 3 copies of it and 3 copies of Emerald Bird, along with your 2 copies of Crimson Fox. So we also got support like Allure of Darkness coming out, and with all these things put together, it doesn't make it as bad if you don't have copies of Teni. If you're a budget player and you don't have your Fire Formation Tenis, or you don't have 3 copies of it, it doesn't hurt as bad now that we have the full 3 copies of Yellow Martin and Emerald Bird. It still would be better if you do have them, but if you don't have any, or you only have one like this particular deck did, it doesn't feel quite as bad as it did before. We also have a few other cool things that we're doing with this deck. We have a skill called Fatal 5 that says if a monster attacks 5 times in one turn, you win the duel. And if your opponent has 3 monsters on the board, it's very easy to do that with Lunalight Cat Dancer. You can very easily attack 5 times and win the duel through a skill win condition, which is something I don't know if I've ever seen happen before other than like Exodia. So really cool that we're able to do that. We have some other neat tricks here with Greater Polymerization, Fusion Tag, and Necrofusion. So a lot of neat little other things you can do with Lunalight besides the traditional old list that we've seen for a while now. Next up we have Blue Eyes. Now this one is actually the most expensive out of these 5 decks by far at 27.5 thousand gems required. However, though, there are so many budget options that are available for Blue Eyes. If you're a Blue Eyes player, you know there are so many ways, so many cards you can get for this deck for super cheap, super budget. Of course, you have your 3 copies of Blue Eyes, which are free to play. Your 3 alternate White Dragon are free to play. Same thing with your Melody of the Awakening Dragon. Monster Reborn comes in a special campaign, or like a little like a super easy to get thing. So all of these cards are free to play, and then also you have the structure deck that you can get. Even if you get just 1 copy of it, you're going to get 1 copy of the White Stone, 1 copy of the Spirit of the White, and if you go into the same box as Lunalight, you can get just 1 copy of the Synchro Monster Spirit Dragon. You also get 1 copy out of 1 copy of the other Synchro Monster out of that same structure deck. So 1 structure deck, the other cards are free to play. There's so many other good cards you can run here with Blue Eyes, so many other good just generic Blue Eyes or Blue Eyes cards that are solid in the deck. You could also run just other back row cards to fill in the blanks if you need a couple extra slots. You do need 1 copy of the Abyss Dragon, but you only need 1 copy of it, and you can get Effect Failure out of the same box as well. So a lot of just again a lot of good budget options for this deck. Even Sage with the Eyes of Blue, which that comes out of the same box as the Lunalight card. So really budget decks, so many good cheap budget options you can go with if you have those, and fill out your Blue Eyes deck with whatever you like. Coming up next, we have Toons at the number 3 spot. This is, I believe, the cheapest out of all these decks at 12.5k gems. This is the only deck out of these that also doesn't really require an extra deck of any kind. So that's always beneficial anytime you're looking at budget options. You don't have to go after all those XYZ, Synchro, Link monsters, and all that stuff. We have a really cool skill with Toons as well, Toon Invitation. Really powerful field spell, of course, with the Toon Kingdom that prevents your monsters from being targeted and can prevent them from being destroyed. Some decks just have a lot of trouble dealing with Toon Kingdom, and that alone can win you the game. But we have so many other cool things that we can do with this deck, right? We have the Toon Dark Magician, which can search out whatever we need, with whether it's our briefcase. We have our Toon Bookmark to search for our Toon Kingdom and anything else that we need. Blackluster Soldier, which does come out of a box, is a very great removal spell or removal card that we have. Also, you only need 2 copies of it, so if you are going for this deck, you don't need to get the full 3 plays out of this. You should probably get 3 copies of Toon Bookmark, though, which is in the same box, but they are both super rare, so that does help out with the affordability some. And a lot of the other things in this deck are very affordable, like, or are free to play rather, like the Toon Dark Magician, the Toon Kingdom, Table of Contents, all of that stuff. We also have a really neat win condition here with the Toon Dark Magician Girl and the Toon Rollback, being able to quickly attack your opponent for 4,000 damage, direct attack, get through their monsters. Just another beneficial thing to have, especially if you're playing with this deck in KC Cup and you want to get wins as quickly as possible, trying to complete your challenges or whatever. Next up, we have an Ursartic deck. Now, Ursartics are obviously a great budget deck, right? They all come in the same box. In fact, every single thing in this deck list here comes out of one box, right? The only exception to that is the Marincess Link monster, which we have one copy of, but everything else comes out of just one box, a couple of URs, a handful of SRs, but the vast majority of this deck are either rares or common, so very budget deck, but it's also really powerful too. We've been seeing players that if you happen to have like the Jet Synchron and some of those junk cards, that this deck is actually really popular right now and actually doing pretty well in tournaments and is really playing a role in the metagame at this moment. So Ursartic are a really budget affordable deck, and if you do happen to have some of those extra options, it's also a very competitive deck. A lot of neat things we're able to do with this deck. Really unique synchro mechanic here that no other deck in the game can take care of. Really just a unique summoning mechanic, the way that they operate. There aren't that many other decks that have something like it or at all even similar to it. It's very unique, and overall, like I said, it's a very powerful deck right now. Definitely having success in tournaments, and if you have those extra options to go with it, Ursartic are a very, very solid deck to go with at the moment. And of course, number one, it's got to be Tenyi, right? This deck is arguably one of the top 3 decks in the game right now. Tons of powerful monster effects that allow them to get effects out of the graveyard to either dodge or so they can play through your opponent's removal spells. They have the little Heavenly Dragon Circle, which can kind of help their monsters dodge, put them in the graveyard, search for another Tenyi, then get a graveyard effect. They also have the Revival one. When one of their things gets destroyed, they got to bring it right back to the field. They have protection effects that they can put into the graveyard. They have ways to bounce your opponent's monsters with Vishuda, so many powerful graveyard effects. Tons of powerful extra deck monsters as well. They have, of course, Draco Berserker of the Tenyi, which they, given that it's part of this deck, they have very easy access to it. Extremely powerful monster, able to OTK your opponent so easily. Also, try to prevent your opponents from being able to activate their effects or banish the monster to activate them. So, powerful 3K monster and Berserker of the Tenyi. Just so many things going for this deck right now, and it's no surprise to see it doing well in tournaments. This is one of the top decks in Master Duel, or at least, this deck with Sword Soul was one of the top decks in Master Duel. Still sees play in that game, and whenever you have a deck that does really well in the TCG or Master Duel, and you have most of it in Duel Links, that deck's going to be really good, and that's where we're at with Tenyi right now. So that's it for this video. That's it for this top 5 list. If you guys like the content, please be sure to like and subscribe. It does help out the channel a lot. I appreciate the support. Thank you so much for watching, and you guys have a great rest of the day.